Hello there, it's Boots Owen here. This is a Colwood, if I turn it around, a Colwood Model RA number 1330/3 Garden Tractor, made by Dashwood Engineering in London. Nice brass plate there. It's a bizarre little pedestrian tractor, roughly the size of a wheelbarrow. Excuse the garage, that's how life is. I believe that's a clutch over there that goes on a cable down to this Albion gearbox, which is a 3-speed forward and neutral. It's in neutral at the moment, 1, 2 and 3. Natty little one, similar to the one that comes on a Brot, which is a 3-speed in reverse. But that one's a bit more complicated because of the reverse and different linkages and whatnot. Actually, no, that one is more substantial in size, and that one can pull a body around, 200 or 300 kilos, whereas this one's really only, well, it's meant to plow though, so it can pull a bit of weight. What do I want to tell you about it? Well, I bought it almost a year ago or thereabouts now. It's in one of my update videos. If you search for Boots Owen Colwood on the search box up there or wherever it is, it'll come up and you'll see around when I got it and taken delivery of it. I got it because I thought it would be handy for pulling things. The reality is I've never used it. That's not helped because it doesn't run. I think I paid 50 quid for it, so it's not a big deal. I got it down in North Wales. I had to drive about an hour to fetch it, but it went in the back of the car on its side. No bother. Pretty standard Villiers engine. Let's have a look at the nameplate on that. So, Villiers Engineering, Wolverhampton, number 826/45698D, Mark 10, so it's a standard Mark 10, I presume. Castrol oil, XL, XXL, Castrol Light, different oils, summer and winter. I wouldn't be bothered with that kind of thing. I haven't done anything with it. I've taken it in, I've pretended to look at it a few times. I don't know why I haven't done anything with it, but there's other things came along, solar panels and whatnot, which are interesting too. The tyre is a tricky one. It's obviously badly perished, but still holds air and has done for the last year. It's a 3.00 by 8, so 3-inch wide rim, I think, and 8-inch across. It's an Avon, if you can just about see the VON there. Traction, ION, implement. So it's a proper tractor type tyre in the miniature. Smaller than a Howard Gem, possibly the same size, I don't think it is though, possibly the same size as a Howard 300 or 350, that kind of size. Rotavator, but I don't think I'm not sure that it is. It's unique, or not unique, but it's what sets it apart is the fact that it only has one wheel, and that wheel is driven through this drive case made out of tin, welded up tin, and I want to take that off and have a look. There's a chain drive in there, if you can see it. There's a chain drive to the gearbox, and there's also a flywheel pulley. So I think what you could do is use this to drive other things as well. Whether or not you do it through there or whatever, I don't know. I have a manual, not a manual, but a kind of a brochure for it that came with it, which I should review probably. So the gearbox moves back and forth. There's a little tensioner bolt there, and I presume that tensions it to the engine, which is on fixed mountings. And then there must be something to tension the chain up and down. Or maybe this one slides side to side, I don't know. So if I have it in neutral now, if I pull this until that engages, that turns over the engine, you see? That's your pull starter lever there. Quite original rubber. Likewise, the grips up here, they're still soft, but they're perished, and to get grips as bulky as that now, I'd say you'd struggle. It has a kind of a side kickstand here, but that's somewhat useless depending on the implement. So at the moment it's got this implement on the bar at the back that has 3, I don't know, tearing teeth or something like that, what you'd call it, I don't know. But it also came with, over here on the MIG welder, a ridger, potato ridger or whatever you're ridging, and a pair of what I would call blades or slicers. So it doesn't rotivate, it's not a rotavator, I don't know if you can get a rotavator attachment for it, and the reality is this thing is 60 years old if it's a day. So trying to get parts for it. There's very few of these compared to Howard's and other things, rotary hose. Very few of these left, or maybe ever made in the first place. Some parts in here, a couple of nuts and bolts, a bit of broken, this appears to be broken engine plate, alloy, a spanner. Typically you'd keep a spare spark plug in there or something. That's a bit of duct work. In the toolbox, the petrol tank is completely loose apart from one bolt. Spark plug HT is loose, and I haven't had a spark from it, and I haven't done that recently. There's a little grease gun in here, which I believe to be original. Little pump action grease gun with a wooden handle split. Looks to be, I don't know what I'd say that is. I would have said sycamore, but actually I don't know now. Timber handle on here as well, which is badly eaten with woodworm. I should return that in there maybe, that greaser. Plastic fuel cock on it and plastic hose, which I presume is not original, or yeah, it is braided plastic hose. Villiers engine, so it's presumably got standard parts, but I don't recognize this air cleaner. Cable tie here, not cable tie, hose clip here, holding that onto the carb. So that might be a different thing, although it has a proper bracket there. The carb, what make would that be? I don't know. It looks to be pretty standard. It's got, do you know what it reminds me of? The bowl reminds me of the one that's on my Allen side. Different shape though, but a similar float bowl. Again, that's a Villiers engine too, so could be Villiers. There's a little hinged flap there. It's hinging along there, so that's, I don't know, maybe you can change it depending on the weather. I'm making that bit up. It's a D16 plug in it, and it's not in correctly. It's a side valve engine, so I think that must be potentially an inlet valve there. It looks too clean to be an exhaust. And in here, there's an alloy cap on the fuel tank, and it's full of varnish, really kind of grim varnish, and there's kind of a growth. It stinks of real old petrol. Is it a 2-stroke? No, I think it's a 4-stroke if it's got valves, obviously. So 4-stroke engine, so I should be able to put it in straight fuel. It'll be E10 because that's what we can get nowadays, unless I go buy premium, but I think I bought a bottle of E10, so E10 it is. It has a PTO here, which I don't know what to use for, what it is used for. It'll have some kind of a drive. It looks like the gearbox drives this chain here down to a big wheel in there, which also comes off this shaft here, and then something else driving onto the wheel. So it looks like whatever implement you're putting on it for the PTO will have the same, will have a constant ratio to the wheel one way or the other. There's no separate gearbox for the wheel. What else can I say? It's got a nice Union Jack flag on it there, well worn. So I think I'm going to do is, I think the gearbox is fine. They're quite a little self-sufficient unit, and they don't seem to take much or give much hassle, unless like my one of my Brot 20s are completely worn out. You might guess the Brot 202 has been taken apart and scrapped basically. I might have put that in an update, but I still have 2 Brot 20s. That's a separate issue. I've been talking for nearly 9 minutes. Got to do something with this. So I'll have a go at getting the engine running, possibly using a different fuel tank or a bottle or something to get fuel into it, or maybe just putting a shot into the float bowl. And spark is the issue, I guess, so I'll need to check for spark first. And I might take off this just to see what's going on in there. Don't know what mood's taking me at all, but I'm kind of, it's come around, so let's crack on. There was only one bolt holding on the petrol tank and the fan shroud, which is a bit disturbing, and when I put a 1/2-inch socket on here, this was particularly loose. That's got an interesting, alright, that's just a cover. Oh, that's not so bad then. Brass flywheel, or partly brass flywheel in there, I can see. It's interesting arrangement there. If I recall, these things are self-extracting, if I can get this off, so 3/4, no. 7/8, too loose, strange. 20 something, 20, 19, 20, 22, will be too loose. Bear with me. What says that? God knows, right? That's not working either. 20 mil, 21 mil, what would that be? Don't know. Let's see how loose this is. So this came from a guy who had been gifted it when he was a teenager, interested in gardening, by his father. So presumably in the 60s, I think he had it that long. Presumably rather wealthy. He lived out in the country, which is no sign of anything. In a nice house, I'd say, but oh dear, that's quite fast on. These are tricky because you can break the fins off here quite easily. That piece of aluminium that I had earlier on comes from here. Although looking at it, it's been attempted to be glued on in the past, so it's not a recent break. It has an N mark on it, which is a bit tricky, if you can see that. I don't know if that's got anything to do with timing. I hope not. I'd like to see in here because I'm looking to see if there's points. Oh, look what I found here. Appears to be a kill switch. See that little deal there? Okay, just a little button that you'd have to know about because it's hidden underneath everything. Alright, what am I going to do? I dislike using open-ended spanners or adjustable wrenches. Bear with me. So it is a 1/2" BS 7/16 Whitworth. Got a ring spanner there, and does it have a right hand? It may have a left hand thread, you know. That's the other side of it. No, I think it has a standard thread. That fan ring there is missing a bolt holding it on, missing a nut holding it on. And these are just, you just clatter them home. So we need a hammer. I'd rather hit it downwards, but the starting lever is in my way. Oh, great. The points cover in here. So in here, on wobbly, there's the points. And they appear to be opening and closing. There's no points cover, which is frustrating, and I don't think I have a spare one. I think I have a spare coil though. I could attempt just to clean them with a bit of sandpaper, and I think that's probably the best option. So a little piece of emery paper. I don't see a number on it. God knows what that is. 600 or some number like that. If I can get that in, draw it out a few times, that would do it. I'd rather not remove the thing because it's more work if I can avoid removing it. The flywheel, I would just like to see if it would give a chug. There we go. I would like it if I could get that to close, but you can see there's actually quite a deposit stuck on it, so yeah, it's filthy. I don't want, if I take it apart, I'll have to retime it, and retiming it's a bit of work, so I don't want to do that. So if I get it here and then swing it a bit, it should close. If I can get that in, I need the scissors and cut this down. Make it easier. What I'm attempting to do is to slide this in between the gap of the points, and then close them and then withdraw it a few times. It's nipping it anyway, so they're opening and closing. It would happen to be on the bottom, wouldn't it? Right. But the machine's somewhat over on its side. Bit of a jaunty angle, not really very well protected. Lost my piece of sandpaper. So might get a better view of that in there. So let's get a better view of that. So when I close it there, when I rotate it, so if I open it, feed this in, I can get a better view now, but it's still, yeah, there we go. Close it and pull it out. It gets a bit of a deposit on the paper. You can see it just won't focus. Open it, sandpaper, pull it out, do it again. Try and find a clean piece of the sandpaper. All you can see is my hand. Close it. And you see it's building up a little ring of dirt, or a little smudge of dirt. And then trim off this piece with the scissors. Do it again. So I've done that cleaning operation until both sides are clean and the paper comes out relatively clean, and I'm just putting in a piece of clean white printer paper. And this is just to try and remove any residual emery or whatnot that might be stuck in there. One more go and that'll be happy enough. So this thing has been laid up for a number of years. Why have my fingers stopped working? This thing's been laid up for a number of years. There's a cobweb in the flywheel I can see. I don't know, these things can lose their magnetism over time. Bit of dirt on that one, I'll do it again with a clean one. See, that's how tight it is, so it's closing properly. It's ripped my paper, so I have to make sure I get that paper out now. Yeah, see it blowing away. Good. Give it one last go. The guy I got it off had it for years, so I'm hoping the timing is correct. I don't know if it is. There's an adjusting screw there and you can slide the points either way, but that's just the points gap adjustment. The actual timing adjustment is done via the flywheel, I think, unless it's got a keyway, but I don't believe these Villierses do. So let's put it up and just see if we can get a spark out of it. So usually on an engine you would have to somehow, I don't know if this is going to work at all, I'll try squeezing this in, because I'd rather see it on the spark plug. That would be better from my point of view than trying to hold the bloody thing and start it at the same time. Normally you have to put the cover back on to be able to start it, because you need to pull on the pull cord or whatever's there, and that's normally built into the fan housing. In this case, that isn't the case. You just have to pull on the lever. So what are we, 25 minutes in? And all I've done is clean the pipes, and let's go. Hoping for a spark. Wonderful. Can you see that? It's faint enough, but it is a spark. If you keep an eye on the plug here. I wouldn't say it's bright. I wouldn't say anything more than that, but it is a spark. So a spark's a spark. Right. Well, in that case, I'll take this plug out, put this back in here. The HT cable. It's all happening. I'm not too worried about starting it without the fan shroud on it, because I don't have a fuel tank, so it's not going to run for very long anyways. So, carburetor. It has a automatic linkage there that presumably has some kind of a flywheel thing inside. Oh, look, that's open as well. That's no good. Right, why is that open? It's the oil, the push rod gallery in there, presumably. Let's have a look. What's going on here? So that gasket is missing a bit of something there. But you can see the valves, there are valve springs in there. They all look like they're there, which is, I don't know, half the battle, some part of the battle. Let's put that back on. I don't believe that has any effect on the compression, so it should just run with that not correctly situated. I'd like to get that back on. It's a little bit tight, so I wanted to get at this float bowl and see what it's like in there. Get a socket on it. Let's try the old adjustable. There we go. I'm not really expecting there to be anything in here, so. And in fact, the best will in the world, that's not going to come off because that linkage is in the way over here. What a disaster. Oh, I might be able to see actually if it's clear and free. That's a start. Because it could be spotlessly clean inside, you never know. I can see a brass float. It does look pretty good, so I'm just going to screw it up and see if I can't get some fuel in there somehow. Okay, so there's a choke there and I don't know which way is on. Air filter, let's have a look up there. Just for funsies. Oh, it's a big, pretty standard felt filter. I'm sure you can get in. Actually, it looks more like an oil filter to me than an air filter, the kind of stuff I'd say. It looks quite clean. It's all relative. It's old. Put that back on. I'm not going to dig into that today. So, get some fuel into it somehow. Some fuel in somehow. How is the question. So that looks to be epoxy. So this fuel line looks to be epoxied in place, and I don't really want to fill up the original tank because it's gross. I'm going to see if I've got a spare tank. Now then, I've got the tank cable tied to this shield, filter and fuel tap. That's just because I lifted it straight off the brot, one of the ones that doesn't work. And I think this tank leaks. I think I've mended it here where there's all that yellow staining. I've got some fuel. I think the tank leaks, but I've mended it with a soldering iron. Whether that's going to do anything for me here or it's going to leak all over my carpet is anyone's guess. Likewise, if the float works or not, I don't know. Let's put in that little bit there. Quarter tank or less, probably. Put this away. Haven't smelled petrol in a long time. Haven't checked if there's any oil in it either. Probably be a good idea. There's a dipstick thingy. Let's put this fuel on and see if it leaks out everywhere. It's filling up the filter. It's bubbling through. Oh, excellent. You can see that. It's bubbling through. There's a tickler over here. So if I give it a little tickle, yeah, it's drawing it on. Oh, and then it whizzes out the bottom. Good. Cloth would be ideal to wipe that up. Yeah, right. So we've got fuel in the float bowl, which is quite a start. Let's see now. Kind of restricted for space again because I've turned this machine around. Kind of restricted for space. Let's see if I can get in here and see if there's any oil in it. It may have been that the oil fell out a bit while I was bringing it home in the car. Top of fill to top of sump. Yikes, that's tight. We try and get in from both from this side here. See, these old alloy things, it's just as liable to break off as anything now. Nope, we're in. Okay. There's loads of good, clean, clear oil in that. Wouldn't say it's filled to the top of the sump. Whatever, there's oil in it. Unlucky if it started and run and seized straight away. So we'll bring it outdoors. Start swearing. So the old will it start? Let's see. We're in neutral. Not a sausage. I'll tickle it a bit more and see, and then I'll check the spark plug. Dripping petrol. So let's see if this spark plug is covered in petrol or not. It's not an ideal connection there either, really, on that spark plug. Might call for a spark plug cap. Dry as a bone. Dry as a bone, okay. Let's try and get that back on here and try and get a drop of fuel in there. There's fuel in the carb. The carb's obviously not drawing it in. Drop of fuel in there might kick it off. Or 5 drops of fuel. Screw this in. I brought out a pull cord of some description there just in case as well. Don't know if I'm going to use that. Okay. I'd go so far as to say it's got very bad compression, you know. It's not really anything, you know, just feeling, because I'm not used to pulling on one of those pull starter lever things. Let's see if we can get this going then. Add a bit more. Not even a pop or a splutter. Villiers. Have one more look at this thing and see what we think of the spark plug. Oh, it's soaking wet this time. That is positive. Difficult to see outdoors, but I want to see if I can get a spark out of it again. see a spark there. No good. So a spark plug cap of unknown origin. Let's just clip this back to there. Sometimes these don't work because there's a resistor in them. There's all sorts of reasons why this won't work, but let's try it anyways. Screw that in. The fact of it is, it's old as well. Take this off. Put that in. Oh dear. That one won't fit because it's a big spark plug. Erg. Right. Back to the drawing board. So I've got a very old Lodge CB3, a bit longer in the thread, but it might fit. Yeah, it's rusty too. Let's see. See if this does anything. Don't see anything. It's not actually promising there though. I have another cap that might fit. This one has a resistor in it, which doesn't necessarily bode well. All I want to do is see a spark, really. No spark, no good. Strange that, frustrating. So I'm trying it with a brand new NGK AB6, which is I think the only NGK replacement you can get for these old style, old implement plugs. There's not a spark out of it there either, so it's frustrating, but it is what it is. I think I might take the engine off and bring it indoors and have a look at it. I got fed up trying to start it, so I've taken it back inside and I'm just looking at the marks. There's a mark here on the back plate, little tiny timing mark, and there's a mark here on the wheel, the flywheel. And I started to loosen off the flywheel and then thought, well, I'd better check about top dead center, because that's a thing, and see if that's what top dead center is. And I thought, well, I'll take off a cylinder head. Just looking at that, actually, well, that's what those marks are. There's a mark there and there's a mark there, and you line them up and you've got top dead center, which is decent, good. It's good. Okay, there's a copper gasket there with some old red yuck on it. Top of the cylinder heads looks wet from the petrol I poured in, perhaps. Okay, don't know if I'm going to try and remove that copper cylinder, don't know. So you loosen this by hitting it with a hammer, and I've done that, and then it gets tight again because there is again the nut here is captive, and so to release it you have to beat it a bit further. And I'm just holding it with my hand, which is probably not the wisest, but it worked for the first bit, which should be the tighter bit, really. You could kind of grip it somehow or something. The real issue is that this thing is in the way here, so I'll get that out of the way. That pull starter handle. can hear it moving. There you go. And that withdraws itself, so it's a captive nut and it withdraws off the shaft. And then you've got to keep screwing it because it's still attached to the shaft. Now, you're into this limbo of, is there any magnetism in here? There's a weak magnetism, but there we go. It's weak. Let's just say it's weak. Clean off this. That cam inside there is pretty grim. Bit of a clean wouldn't hurt it. What's to be said about this plate? There's very little to do with on these, you know, like they don't, if they're rusty it doesn't matter because it's not about that. Just looking in there and feeling around, it's pretty clean. Like doesn't look like it's ever been seized. Valves are opening correctly. Without the flywheel it won't kind of go clunk clunk clunk, so it is. Right. Now, do I want to remove this back plate is my question. The truth is I don't. I could attempt once more to clean those plugs off. Cleaning any of this really doesn't make any difference. It's about magnetism rather than anything else. And if that coil's a dud, well, the coil's a dud. And if the magnets are flat out, well, sure, there's not much I can do with them here. Apart from scraping some snots off it, which I will do. The weak magnetism is an issue, and that's just time. That magnet's strong, but this big roundy one is not so strong. It should be possible to use electricity to smarten it up a bit, but I don't have such a coil. This is just clay from when it was once used in anger, I presume. And likewise in here. So there should be a cap on that points thing, a little cover, and there isn't. That's, I wouldn't say it's a worry, but it's not ideal either. So where's my sandpaper? I'll try and clean this out a bit better again. I think there's a condenser in here somewhere, a capacitor. Where that is, I don't know. The capacitor could be shagged as well, you know, the whole thing. Could be in good or bad condition. And that's just the way it is. Right. top dead center. Air in. There we go. Top dead center. Let's just give this a clean in here as well. Give this a clean. Let's find that mark. There it is. Go, getting on now. Try and look in and see if this is moving. Let's tighten that up a bit. So it's here, top dead center. So it's turning, gas comes in, gets squeezed, and then there's a spark somewhere there, and that pushes it. So it's sparking quite a, well, no, actually it's not too bad there. It's opening again. What would that be? 20 degrees before top dead center. It's a bit much, perhaps, but that's where it was set to before as well. So I'll nip it up at that. We'll have a look at the spark and see if there is one. Just push that in this time. Yeah, and so it's sparking again now. So if I could find my clean new AB1 plug, AB6 plug, maybe this will do it. So let's try this. Oh. Let's try it with the resistor cap, because it just fits, that's why. As much as anything, but that might not work. No, there is it. You may not see it because it's the weakest little spark, you know, that's the problem there, I think. Try it on this plug again, the Champion D16 that came with it, which isn't necessarily the right plug either. Yeah, it's as weak as can be, really, as sparks go. Take off that resistor again, the resistor cap. Let's see what we get if I just push it straight on again. It's not like a big bright blue spark the way you'd like to see, but it is what it is. Cylinder head again, I guess. Somebody's been in there before me. You can see the scratch marks all around. Scratch marks where they've gone at it with something, but looks like it was pretty smoked up in there. Let's put this back on. So bizarrely I haven't got the right socket to fit, but I have a spanner that fits, which is like really strange from my point of view. Because normally these things are easy to come by, but Villiers, I don't know, are they different? Is it Whitworth or something like that compared to Briggs? Villiers, some people probably swear by these, but I don't know. I haven't done much work on them other than Allen sides and a couple of stationary engines along the way. But this is a 9/16 and it's too big. And so I'll tell you what it is, the correct one now in a sec. It is 5/16 BS, 1/4 inch Whitworth. So you'll see I'm not tightening it in probably the correct pattern, but I'm going like around it rather than, I'm going across it rather than around it. Ah dear, that was the cracking noise of a fin breaking off, because I'm a moron. That's a real shame, that is, but well, that's what happens when you don't have the correct socket. Be the last nip. I'm annoyed about that, but that is what it is. Right, so let's tickle it back down to some fuel again. Let's fuel in the bowl and spark plug in the hole. Okay, all I want to hear is like a tuk-tuk. Anything? 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 The clutch on and off. So there is the issue that it might not be timed correctly, but I think the bigger issue in this case is that it's not sparking enough. So cleaning the points, putting in a new condenser behind the points is an option. Doesn't smell like fuel either now though, however. Let's have another look at this. All fuel problems are in the ignition system, and all ignition problems are in the fuel system. Take the carb apart, give it a shot of compressed air, put it back together. Might go. Maybe. There's a drip underneath the carb now. Could be all sorts of gum in there too. Doesn't seem to be getting fuel. Oh dear. So I've removed the carburetor, the float, and the float bowl, or the other way around. And I was looking at the bottom thinking something's not right here. I couldn't tell what it was, but there was this screw like right buried in there. So I managed to get a wire cutters in and kind of twist it out. It wasn't seized, luckily. And I've put a slot, if you can see that, into the tip of the screw where there should have been a handle or something on it maybe, or a spring and an adjuster, and that'll screw in now like that. And that's the coming up there. I don't know where it's meant to sit, which is an issue, but it was seated right in, which may have been too far. So I presume the air gets drawn over it, so I'll leave it out a bit and I can always put it back in. But the issue is now it's loose and it'll just vibrate and fall out, you see. That's your problem now. It needs a new carb. So I don't know that that green paint job on the thing is original, because you can see that port there, that manifold is brass, and I don't know if they would have painted that like that when it was new. No. So I've blown it through with compressed air. There's a limited number of things you can actually do to engines, so you just have to do them, apart from taking it right apart. But when that screw, when it's clear that that screw knob on the end has been damaged, you are kind of trapped in what you can achieve by, you know, bodging it together. Because if that thing falls out, well, fuel will just leak out of it, presumably. Maybe not. It's just a shame, really. So really, keeping it genuine is one thing, but it's obviously been massacred is probably too strong a word, but worked upon by somebody else in the past who's worked hard on it. And so if I want it to work again, I've just got to deal with what I've got. And you can buy all the parts for Villiers somewhere, new or used, but the simpler thing would be to get a small cheap engine, new or used, and put it up on top. You can get an engine like this for 100 quid or thereabouts. I'm making up numbers, but it sounds reasonable. So 2 screws here, 2 bolts even, 2 nuts to tighten up underneath. And I have to attach the linkage as well. And I've also noticed that I wasn't using the choke, so that's the choke open and vertical, and that's the choke closed, so I can play with that a bit as well to see about getting it going too. I have to tighten this screw here, and then the linkage. This machine doesn't have a user governable throttle, There's a baby outside singing, which is pleasant. Oh, come back, linkage. Don't know if you can see any of this here, but I might just edit it out if there's nothing to say. I don't think that silver is original. The way the green paint is over the silver and all, I think it's a repair job. But if this guy really has had it since the 60s, presumably he did this repair and restoration himself and knackered it himself, left out springs and took stuff apart. Who knows? Fuel back on. Especially that plastic fuel thing isn't right either, so whatever. Put this fuel on. No, it's flowing by itself this time, I think. The air's purging automatically there. It's kind of neat. Okay, try the tickler. Yeah, tickles away. Right, spark plug back in. Let's see if we have any success. Choke on? Why not? I know what you're saying, that fuel line looks a bit dangerous. Alright, getting near the end of my available time for this machine today. Let's have a look and see if any fuel has made it to the plug. Not really. Nope, I would say. Oh, let's turn this off. Pull that off again. Put a little dribble in there. Put this back in and see if we, having directly fueled it, can get a pop out of it. Who knows? So there it is. What does that tell you? Villiers 10. I've had enough of you today. Had enough of that. It's not running. The engine looks to have been manipulated. I'll show you what I mean on the paint job. You see the way that green is overlaying the silver? It doesn't look original, whether the silver is or not. And it looks like it was, I'm kind of thinking now, it looks like it was put back together and painted up for show, if you want to call it that, because that silver paint wouldn't last long on the exhaust if it had been used much after it was put back together. I have a feeling it was put back together and never really run after that. So I've got to figure out what I want to do with it. I spent a bit of time looking at this off camera, and perhaps if I spin it around, whoops. So if I spin it around a bit, let's have a look at what's happening here. Power's going in here from the engine, turning this way. There's a clutch, the chain. It's a cork clutch, you can just see in there. That's bits of cork similar to a Brot. I guess that's what they have in these old Albion gearboxes. Then there's another chain in behind going down here, and there's another reduction gear then going to the wheel to slow it down even further. The gearbox can slide this way, left and right, and then this guy here can rise up and down to tension this chain. And there may be another way of tensioning the chain on the front, I don't know, or moving this guy around. I haven't taken off this cover yet. I'm not sure that I will. I'm not sure what I want to do here. It needs a new engine, and those mountings aren't the usual kind. They don't look like Briggs size mountings. Certainly wouldn't fit that Briggs over there, but it's a bit of a hunk. I don't think anybody wants to drive that on this machine. And as well as that, you need, actually, yeah, okay, so you need something with a small size 5/8 inch shaft, perhaps. 5/8 shaft. And then I could put that pulley on it, and that would work. So there must be a suitable Briggs for that, but I don't know. It's a shame. Carburetor and spark issues. If you saw something that you thought I was doing wrong, let me know, but I have a feeling, based on the condition of that screw underneath, and it's dripping petrol out of that now, it's just what's in the bowl, because this is off. Because of that, I'm thinking there's a good bit wrong with this engine, and I knew that it wasn't going when I bought it, so I don't feel cheated. And really, the gearbox on its own is pretty good. And the other thing I could do is maybe put an electric motor on it and a few batteries, but that's another day's work, and that's not really what I want it for. So I'll put it back together. Oh look, there's another bit of something interesting. Cast iron. Where does that come from? I don't know. Right, will it start? It's a disappointment. Good gearbox. Questions or comments, leave them below. Thanks for watching. See you later.